Hey folks! So this is the last video of the Overcoming Codependency series. Today we're going to be talking about making yourself valuable. Okay, so we've gone through kind of all of the steps of what it's going to take in order to kind of start to strip back some of this anxiety, to soothe some of this anxiety, and now we can look at ways that we can start to step into the secure attachment style, which is the first step to that is going to be about making yourself valuable. So I want to first start out by just talking to you guys a bit about where I'm at in my path with this. I've actually made some pretty awesome strides in working towards this. Like I told you in the previous videos, I've pulled myself back from the dating world and I've really just been focusing on myself and what that means for me. And I've been doing a ton of research on attachment, but not the type of attachment that you think, not relationship psychology attachment. It's more spiritual attachment and learning how attachment plays into our unhappiness, because attachment is all about attaching to something and saying that therefore it is a dependency of ours in order for us to be happy, whereas practicing detachment is about still being able to have preference, right? I can still say I prefer for this person to do this and this with me or for me, and if they don't, I can still be happy. So it's just not it's not putting all your eggs in one basket and saying, here, this person has all total control over my happiness. The only person that you can become attached to and have that be part of, them be giving you all of your needs and your happiness is you, right? So that's a secure attached person, is they're not looking outside of themselves for their source of happiness. They're cultivating it from within, and then the relationship with other is complementing that happiness that they were cultivating from within. So the first thing we need to understand about this journey that, for example, that I'm on is I've come through kind of layers. It's been a bunch of layers. And the first layer that I came up against is almost like a resistance to this whole idea of attachment, or the whole resistance to the idea behind detachment, I should say, because I didn't understand. I thought detachment meant renunciation, not needing somebody, not wanting to be with somebody and just letting go of that. And it made me feel a sense of loneliness. It made me feel a sense of anxiety, even just thinking about that, because that's something that I really yearn for, is to be in a relationship with somebody that is whole and wholesome, and that can be a fulfilling relationship. But if it's not about renunciation, then what is it about? And detachment is about being alert, why the intention behind what it is that you're seeking from the other, right? And not going at them to meet your needs of happiness, because that's something that you have to take responsibility for. So what I've really learned on this journey is it's about self-responsibility, right? Nobody is going to be able to ever provide me exactly what I'm looking for except for myself, right? And that's, for me, was a tough thing to swallow at first, because I was so reliant on that throughout my life. Second hurdle I came up against is why I'm attracting these crazy men that I'm attracting, that aren't able to hold space for me, that are detached from themselves, that aren't emotionally intelligent, a lot of these factors. And it came down to, I was attracting people that were like my father growing up, and my father's a wonderful man, but he's not very emotionally in tune, and he wasn't able to be emotionally in tune for me and model that as far as a masculine energy. And then I have a mother on the other side who is very much more on the extreme ends of things, where she's very nurturing, and she's very she compensated for what my father wasn't able to give me emotionally. And so I started to attract men that were like my father, and this really was a reflection on, okay, I have to actually look at what it is that I'm attracting these men into my life for. What lesson are they trying to teach me? And which, at the end of the day, was that I need to provide myself with these needs. And even growing up, we rely on our parents to meet our emotional needs, but there becomes a time where we have to fly from the nest and we have to start meeting these needs for ourselves. And for me, that transition was very, very, it wasn't a transition. It never happened. So that's where I had to start to go back and do some of that work and get to a place where I felt that I was able to start meeting my needs for myself. And that's what this journey's been about. Third hurdle that I came up against was perfectionism. Perfectionism has been something that's been a part of me my whole life, and it has been really a soothing mechanism for shame. Shame sits inside of me and tells me that I'm not good enough. So if I don't feel good enough and I don't feel worthy enough, I have to do things in my external world to make me to compensate for that shame, to make me feel worthy. So perfectionism is about managing your outer world to give you soothingness on the inner world so you can start to deal with that. How that relates to the anxious attachment style is it's directly related to codependency, because shame tells you that you're not good enough. Codependency tells you that you're not good enough and you need to seek that reflected back to you that you are good enough from somebody else, which is why we love others the way that we want to be loved, not the way that they want to be loved, because we want that reflected back to us. Right? So shame is really directly linked to codependency. So this has been a huge revelation for me, because as I'm starting to heal some of my shame wounds, which come from being gay and come from not being comfortable in my own skin growing up and having to always feel like I had to hide parts of myself, that made me feel like I wasn't desirable. So when I was getting into these relationships with men, I wanted them to reflect back to me that I was desirable. And the universe sent me these people that weren't able to do that for me, because the universe is not going to give me something that is going to create me to go down a path that is going to further create more dysfunction for me. So it's like, no, we're going to put all these people in front of you that are going to reflect back to you how much you're not loving yourself, so you can learn the valuable lesson to love yourself. So you can go through the rest of your 30s, 40s, 50s and have love for yourself regardless of whether or not you're with somebody or not. Okay, so that's a fundamental learning for me. And that directly ties into worth. Okay, so shame and worth are directly connected as well, because they're really at the end of a spectrum. So shame is on one end and worth is on the other. And as we start to make our journey towards worth, we also start to make our journey towards authenticity. And when we have worth, we have this desire to step into our authenticity. And when we step into our authenticity, we make ourselves valuable. Right? That's why I call it make yourself valuable, because we want to learn how to start to move from shame over into worth and authenticity so we can feel valuable. When we feel valuable, we don't feel the need to have to be reliant on somebody else to make us feel valuable. Right? So this journey is really about cultivating worth. So if you want to move from an anxious attachment style into a secure attachment style so you can stop being crazy in relationships, which is, I know how painful that is for not only us but for our partners, we need to start to cultivate worth. So one of the best things that I have done for myself is being able to ask myself this question whenever a shame trigger comes in. And for me, shame triggers are things in my environment that reflect back to me my own lack of worth and my own lack of love for myself. So it might be seeing somebody that is more attractive than me, or seeing somebody that has a nicer body than me, or seeing somebody who has more success in their career than me. These are things that create shame triggers for me. So when those come up for me, I now ask myself this simple yet profound question: how can I be more gentle with myself in this moment? Okay, how can I be more gentle with myself in this moment? I have to pause and ask myself that question a lot, because I tend to want to revert right into perfectionism. And perfectionism is about how can I be as hard on myself right now as possible, right? Are you using shame to motivate yourself, or are you using love to motivate yourself? And for me, I've been using shame to motivate myself my whole freaking life, because that's what perfectionism is. It's an expression of shame. So as we can start to use love to motivate ourselves, we start to be gentle and compassionate with ourselves. And this is how we start to cultivate the worth that we're looking to cultivate. And this is going to eventually lead us into feeling more valuable. Okay? So this is something that I want you guys to focus on, is what makes you valuable. And it's, for a lot of times people, it's like, okay, I'm going to sit down, I'm going to make a list, and I'm going to look at that list every morning. That doesn't really make us valuable. That gives us contemplation on what makes us valuable. We need to practice these skills. So that question is a perfect example, right? Ask yourself that question when a shame trigger comes up for you, when anxiety comes up for you, when whatever it is that comes up for you. For me, my flavor is shame, but for you it might not be, right? So be mindful and pay attention to whatever's coming up for you, and ask yourself, how can I be more gentle with myself in this moment? Don't try and chase something or force something or control something to try and make you feel valuable, right? All you have to do is just be, and you just have to ask yourself, how can I just allow this moment to just be what it needs to be, so I can start to cultivate more value in myself. You need your stock to rise, right? That's the whole premise of this work, is we're raising our stock so we can be valuable on the market, and we don't need to be always getting a reflected version of us back to us to tell us that we're okay, right? It's a very fragile and painful way to live when we're always looking for others to reflect back to us who we are, what we are, our worth, all that sort of stuff. So start to go inward, start to look at it as what do you need in order to make yourself valuable, and follow that. Have a beautiful day.